Oh, God, just be good.
I'm not gonna do that poetry. Is there gonna be poetry?
Poetry.
No.
Well, no, it doesn't look like one. We have poetry.
Yeah, we're working on it. Richard and
Oh,
I.
we didn't get one for.
But not necessarily, no, that's why I always. And I couldn't make it without leader rights. And we're trying to decide if the cost of that.
It's a technical system. Use it, but I think you also don't want to see pictures of the slide.
Yeah, I think we'll show you where it is.
So while the guys get things set up, we'll get started.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Thoreau Woods Unitarian Universalist Church. And whether you're a regular or a visitor, we're very glad you're here this morning. And if this is your first time visiting us, if you would like to, please sign up at our table at the front door. And leave your email, and we can keep you posted of upcoming events and future speakers. COVID is beginning to return strongly in Texas and even stronger in Houston. So please be aware, it doesn't seem to be as bad as the past versions. But if you choose to wear a mask, you are quite welcome to. If you feel ill, please stay home. We don't want to share that with our good friends and neighbors. We do ask that you use a microphone when addressing the congregation so that everyone can hear you clearly. We are live streaming today's service. And we do have people in other states, including my brother, who will be watching Michael today. Here's our charity of the month.
Safe House.
Safe House. Our charity of the month is the Safe House. And if you wish to donate, please do make your check out directly to them. That is Safe House with 2 A's. And now our preview music. announcements, we have the general membership meeting, which is a special meeting. We'll be discussing some bylaw changes and other needs of the church. That is next 27th.
It's potluck too, isn't it?
Yes, it's also our potluck weekend. There'll also be an officer election to replace our treasurer. Also, it will be next Friday and Saturday. Please bring your donations this week by Thursday. That means by evening, please, because I have to have time to organize and price everything.
What hours will you be here?
Whatever you need.
You would contact me first?
Yeah, that I'll be here.
Okay.
And what times? So I do occasionally make errands to run and take us on the work.
What time is Verizon?
10 a.m. to 4 on Friday and Saturday. And it's already been submitted to the Huntsville item. And I will be here all day Wednesday. Right?
That's very good, yeah.
Yeah, I'll be here myself at the church all day Wednesday.
Oh, so you'll be able to see them, we can just.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm actually going to spend the night at the church the night before because I'm going to water the grounds overnight so that way it soaks in. And then I'll be here Wednesday to help start setting up.
Okay.
And if anyone would like to come and help price and set up, we'd be happy to have you. We will need volunteers for Friday and Saturday to help with the sales at the actual sales position. That's cashier essentially. And Nick had some further announcements?
I'm good.
That's it? Okay. You will join me in saying, we light this candle, the light of truth and reason, the warmth of love and friendship, the flame of strength and action, and for the vision of laws and justice. If anyone would like, now is our time for joys and concerns. If anyone would like to come forward and light a candle of joy or concern, please come forward. If you need a candle brought to you, please just hold your hand up. And please do use the microphone. We now have them working. Yay!
Hopefully, yeah, it's working. Candle. So I'm lighting this candle. I've had a really good week, especially last night. I got to see some friends that I have not seen in over 5 or 6 years. Had a really good time at the Jolly Fox. Really should be here this morning, but I'm here.
I light one candle for a joy and a concern. Concern for my son. His hand infection has returned. And a joy that there is a possible engagement in our extended family. So, hope that will be fun. Anyone else with a joy or concern? And I'd like one final candle for those joys and concerns unexpressed, and for those who are not here to express them. Yes. This morning, some of our words come from Carl Sagan. As a child in Brooklyn, he often recited the Hebrew Wahababa, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and the quote was, "And you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, with all your mind." He knew it by heart, and it may have been the inspiration for him to first ask, what is love without understanding? And what greater might we do possess as human beings than our capacity to question and to learn? And the more he learned about nature, the vastness of the universe, and the awesome time scales of the cosmic evolution, the more he was uplifted, the more he wanted to know. Science carries us to the gateway of the universe, and yet our conception of our surroundings remains disproportionate. Like the views of a still small child, we're spiritually and culturally paralyzed, unable to face the vastness, to embrace our lack of centrality and find our actual place in the fabric of nature and the universe. We batter this planet as if we had somewhere else to go. That we even do science as a hopeful glimmer of our good mental health. However, it's not nearly enough to accept the insights intellectually while clinging to spiritual ideologies that not only are rootless, maybe, but could be contemptuous of its nature. Carl Sagan believed that our best hope preserving the exquisite fabric of life in our world would be to take the revelations of science to heart. Every one of us in the cosmic perspective is precious. If a human disagrees with him, with you, let him live. In 100 billion galaxies, you will not find another like him. Beloved NASA for years and years worked on studies of both physics, astronomy, astronomy. And his sense of wonder never faded. He wanted humans to see themselves as star stuff, made of atoms forged in the fiery hearts of distant stars that we are all part of. To him, we were star stuff pondering the stars, an organized assemblage of 10 billion atoms, considering the evolution of atoms, and tracing the long journey by which here at last consciousness arose on our planet. For him, science was in part a sort of informed worship, not separate from spirituality. No single step in the pursuit of enlightenment should ever be constricted, but only the search must be. Lost my place here. My meditation this morning. If you'd like to take a moment, we receive fragments of holiness, glimpses of eternity, brief moments of insight. Let us gather them up for the precious gifts that they are, and renewed by their grace, move boldly forward into the unknown. By Sarah Morris Campbell. If you will open your hymnals to number 283, please. The spacious firmament on high. You guys are doing those rolls. Anybody offer to? Thank you. I'd like to introduce Michael Prokosh. He runs the planetarium and the observatory for San Diego State University and has been doing so for 20 plus years now. And keeps him rather busy. He's had many adventures around the world as well to see other planetariums or observatories and programs that are offered. He has benefited greatly from those. The planetarium regularly shows a variety of wonderful, wonderful shows. Michael is very helpful answering questions for us as well. I'll let him tell you the rest.
Excellent. that may be easier. Top one. Okay, sounds good. Well, let me do a little tiny bit of ordinance here. Instruction. Okay. So let me make sure I got this taken care of first. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank on how to. No, I'm drawing a blank on how to do this the easy way. That's a cast. Well, okay. You know, I cast do this like at home all the time. You think I have to figure out this on because it's. Right, well, let me do this part first. So, as you guys may know, I've worked with the observatory, worked with the planetarium, and lately the thing that I've been talking about at the beginning of our scripted movies, our shows, is about the eclipses that are coming up here in Texas. So there are two of them, and I've seen a. Want to set that there? That's okay. I've seen one way of their marketing it as the Texas Two Clips. Since you got two of them, both of them are visible from Texas. The first one is what's called an annular eclipse. An annular eclipse is when the moon is a little on the small side in the sky. You may have heard of something called the supermoon. So when the moon is really large, so the moon doesn't orbit around the Earth in a perfect circle. It's a little bit of an ellipse or oval shape. And so that means sometimes the moon is a little bit closer on average, and most people don't really notice a size difference. The whole thing with the moon looking really large on the horizon, that's an illusion. That's all in our head. And you can demonstrate that, you can prove that by taking, holding your pinky finger out at arm's length, close one eye, and you can cover the moon just as easily when it's low on the horizon as you can when it's high up in the sky. It's something, the way our brain is processing that image, that makes it look really, really large. That being said, the moon does change, it really does change its size, but most people wouldn't notice it any other way. So if there is a supermoon, when the moon looks a little bit larger than usual, I've come up with the term, I'm calling it a puny moon. When the moon is a little bit smaller, so when the moon is puny, it can't cover the entire disk of the sun. It looks a little bit smaller. And so when the moon passes in front of the sun at that time, if you have what we would normally call a total eclipse, and since it can't fill the entire disk of the sun, you have a ring of fire effect, or an annulus, and that's why we call it an annular eclipse. That one, the first eclipse, the two eclipses, is on October the 14th. October the 14th of this year. So it's coming up very, very quickly. Nice thing is it's on Saturday, so they planned it out. It was nice and convenient. Nobody had to take a day off or anything like that to go and see it. And if you want to see, so you'll see an eclipse here in Huntsville. But if you want to see, and if you look up outside while it's going on, you're not going to notice much. You might notice the sky looking a little darker, a little bit hazy, but looking at the sun, which you should really not do. It's not going to look like a big bite's taken out of it, not like a lunar eclipse. The sun is so bright that it's still going to look like, a ball to us, unless you have like solar eclipse classes or can observe it the same way. The easiest way to see the sun change its shape is just go stand outside and look under a tree, stand under a tree, and look at the shadow that the leaves, the sun's making as it peeks through the leaves of the trees on the ground, and there will in fact be some little crescent shapes. The total part of it, I want to say it starts at 10:30, so right about noon is when maximum eclipse will occur, and it'll look a little bit darker outside, but not really that much different. You might think there's haze or smoke up in the sky, making things look a little bit bizarre. Another safe way to observe it, if you don't want to go stand under a tree, is to go find your favorite pasta strainer, whatever you use to make macaroni and cheese with, go take that outside. All the little holes shining through the pasta strainer on the ground aren't going to match whatever shape the sun is. That's basically what they call a pinhole projection. So you can do a little cardboard box, but pasta strainers is a little bit more fun because you have like hundreds of them. So that is on October the 14th. That's the annular eclipse. If you want to see the total part, the really good part, you're going to need to travel a little bit. So there's a path that goes from Corpus Christi through the western side of San Antonio, kind of clips that direction. Junction, Texas, and I mentioned that place because they are on both the one in October and the one in April. They're like at the crossroads part. And then up to Albuquerque, New Mexico. That's the last day of their balloon festival, by the way, and there were going to be some crazy people trying to get in a hot air balloon to go look at the annular eclipse from a balloon. I don't know how safe that is, but there will be some that try to do that. And up to Ely, Nevada, and then up to Oregon. Ely is a little bit north of Vegas. There's a lot of national parks in that area. I mentioned that one because I know a lot of people who are going there to look at the eclipse. It's just a little bitty town. They're going to be swamped. So that's the annular eclipse. That one's okay. I've tried to see eclipses before, and I've not had a whole lot of luck. I feel I'm long overdue. The total eclipse, April the 8th of next year. That one's quite a bit different. This one, the moon's not going to be puny. It's going to be the right size. And if you're on the path of totality, it will cover up the entire distance of the sun. It's the big thing. It's the whole, the sky gets dark, local wildlife, your daytime animals think it's time to go to sleep. Your nighttime animals will think it's time to wake up. And this is at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So there's going to be a little bit of confusion. There was an eclipse I don't remember exactly what year in the 19th century, that Thomas Edison took a bunch of his science equipment and he wanted to go and study and take careful measurements of the temperature of the sun. And so he sets up inside a chicken coop. And the eclipse goes in and it gets darker, and where the chickens do, they come in the chicken coop where his gear and stuff is at. And so he didn't get a lot done. So it's kind of funny. So the total eclipse, April the 8th, 2024, that one, if you want to see it from here in Huntsville, it's a little bit better than the one in October. We're like 98% covered. It's still, the difference is quite literally night and day. It's still going to look like it's daytime outside. You're looking up towards the sun. It's still going to look like a big ball of fire. That 1% is a big, big difference. And at this point, I need to make up the point. Do not look at the sun through binoculars or a telescope. It will be very beautiful, and it will probably be the last thing you ever see. Don't do that. You won't even feel it, because it's going to be like there's no nerves inside your eyeball, so you won't know the damage is. Your optometrist will. Hey, you got these little crescent burn holes in your retina. What did you do? Look at the sun. I'm not supposed to do that. If it is totality, like completely covered up, then you can safely look at it. But you need to be careful. You have maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes maximum. You've got to pay very close attention. Because, the second that sun starts to peek out from behind the moon again, stop. That's the end of the show. You should not be looking with your telescope or binoculars anymore. The safest way is to use eclipse glasses. If you have a welder's mask, I want to say it is a number 14 or higher. I think the higher the number is, the thicker the glass is. That is okay. Specifically the number 14 I've seen. Sun's going to look kind of a weird, funky green color. Nobody else is going to see it like that. The sun doesn't look green. But if you want to observe it, at that time, you're going to need those safety precautions. If you want to see totality, this time the path cuts very differently across Texas. If you look at I-35 and look on the west side of it, that's a pretty good judge. So again, San Antonio, Austin, Waco, all along there. Burnett County is like on the center, and the schools, a lot of the schools in that area have already said they're not going to be having class that day. That's on a Monday. And then it cuts across north and eastward through Corsicana. So you could theoretically go north on 45. Corsicana is on the edge of the totality path. Ennis is a little bit better. It's by 2 or 3 extra minutes if you go there. And then that goes up to Sulphur Springs and Texarkana, and then less interesting places, because that's outside of Texas. In Texas, so the problem is that's April. We know what the weather is like in April. It's kind of a 50-50 shot. It really is, as far as whether or not you're going to have clear skies in any given place in Texas. The problem is, if you want to see it and you're not, when you get out of Texas, north and eastward up to, Cleveland, Ohio is on that. Rochester, New York goes all the way up to the eastern seaboard. Your chance goes from 50 to 40 to 20 to like 10 and 12%. So Texas is going to be the place where most of the eclipse chasers come down. So I kind of advise people, astronomers, amateur astronomers, we're kind of a weird group of people. We'll get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to watch dirt burn up in our atmosphere, meteor showers, little bitty grains of sand. It's just space dirt. That's what it is. But I mean, you can simplify it like that. We will get in a car and drive all the way to Cape Hatteras, North Carolina, to watch the planet Venus transit in front of the sun. If I had stayed here in Huntsville, I would have seen 6 minutes. And Cape Hatteras was as far north and east as I was willing to drive. I saw 43 minutes. And it was, you had to be at the beach at sunrise and hope that none of those annoying clouds got in the way. So it was, again, kind of a game. I don't know whether this is going to work or not. And so we'll go to some extremes. Eclipse chasers are a whole different level of, extreme. I mean, they will book a flight to be airborne in a plane, sitting on the sun side of the airplane, take pictures of the eclipse plane, and to look at the shadow as it's racing across the surface of the Earth at 10,000 miles per hour to get that shot. Or book a cruise ship to be out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean at the only place where it is possible to see. And there's one island in the entire path that it goes on to be there to see the eclipse. So there will be thousands of people. I think through this, I mean, if you look, I mean, that is right through the population centers of Texas. Basically, 20 million people live within 100 miles of the path. More people will see this eclipse, assuming we have clear weather, than saw the one in 2017, just because of where it's heading through Texas, Dallas, Fort Worth, Waco. It's going to be kind of nuts. The hotels are already booked. The state parks are already booked. All the RV parks, all of those sort of things, they're planned out. So to show you how rare these things are and how difficult it is. So eclipses happen quite frequently. You get about 1 or 2 a year, but you need them to be, for it to occur over a given location. That's a totally different ball of wax, as they say. And so, for example, this total eclipse, I'm not talking about the annular in October, the one that's in April. This is only the 3rd total eclipse visible from Texas since statehood. And what's interesting, so there is but at the same time, Carbondale, Illinois, they were also on the path of one in 2017. So having one like 7 years apart is really, really weird. That doesn't happen very much. I'm trying to get one of my little moons out of this bag. I should have done that. So what I wanted to demonstrate is how difficult the unlikelihood of having an eclipse over a given location. So this is my eclipse yardstick. It even says eclipse yardstick. Eclipse yardstick. The reason why we have this is if the Earth were an inch in diameter. I'm going to make a scale model of the Earth Moon system. If the Earth were an inch in diameter, the Moon would be, I'm not going to get the exact measure, the Moon would be about this size. So, and we make it at this size because anything bigger, it becomes a little bit unmanageable. The distance between the Earth and the Moon is about 30 moon diameters between us and the moon. So on my yardstick, I'm going to place my moon and my Earth 30 inches apart from each other. All right, we should get this right. This way. Okay. And then my moon. Now we place that. And okay. Check this out. Maybe the moon will stay easier. There we go. Okay, so you can imagine, so something's got to be bright enough to cast, for this, to cast a shadow on this. And the alignment has to be just right so that the shadow created by the moon lands on this. And the amount of certain area on the surface of the Earth that it covers is very, very small. So, I mean, as the moon is going around the Earth, your shadow is going to be moving with it. It's kind of hard to do this without a really bright light, but you kind of get the idea how difficult it is. The odds are of an eclipse happening.
How long a time do that fast?
Pardon?
How long a time do that fast? How long a time would the
So the total eclipse, from the moment what we call first contact, when the moon breaks the surface, breaks the disk of the sun, to the time it leaves the end of the sun, which is called fourth contact, is roughly 3 hours or so, 3.5 hours. So that's the other thing. Eclipses, they're not just quick, a couple minutes. No, it's a long marathon event. You want to see the whole thing. So going to see the eclipse, most people, if they're going to look at the totality part, those 2-3 minutes when the sun's completely covered up, what's going to happen is most people are going to go, okay, it's over, and they're going to leave. And then it's still got another hour and a half of eclipse going on. So in a way, if you want to seriously experience the entire thing, just plan on camping out, because you're not going to be fighting all 20 million people get back out on I-35 to go home, because that's why some of the schools are closing down, because they realize some of those smaller roads are going to be heavily congested. One of the stories I've been reading about on advice for how to observe the eclipse, one of the more human ones, is to make sure you go to the bathroom first. Go to bed. So if totality, if the eclipse begins at noon and totality is about 1:30 or so, maybe about noon, don't drink that big tall glass of tea, because you don't want to come back 10 or 15 years later and say, man, I went to go see the eclipse. Yeah, how was it? Well, unfortunately, I had to go, and I was in the bathroom, and it was unpleasant, and I didn't see anything. So kind of, seriously, plan ahead in that area as well, because you don't want that to be the story you tell people. No, I saw it. Yeah, no, you didn't. I don't really know how else to advise on how to see it. I have never seen one. I've had this one. I had the one in 2017 marked on my calendar since I was like 10 years old, and they decided to have that be the first day of school. Yeah, the superintendent, and I'm like, dude, come on, man. Can't miss the first day of school, but you know how long it is. So needless to say, I have just been, I'm going to be a little selfish I have plans on where I'm going to go and see it, but I don't plan on answering questions on that day. I'm like, you've had time. So all the preparation stuff is going on now. I am with taking part in a program called the Eclipse Ambassadors, which is a NASA, NSF funded sort of thing, and I'm probably not doing an adequate job of describing it, but they partner up amateur astronomers with college students to then go out and tell everybody how to do it. And I have this, that's actually where this stuff came from, and I have other things, but I was trying to think of what we're working here. Okay, so eclipse questions, and then I'll try to put up there pictures of the dome. Yes.
I understand that the speed of light was calculated during the eclipse.
I think so, correct.
I read about it, but I never quite put all the pieces together to understand why these people traveled to some island in the Pacific, something along that line,
Right.
and set up and made the measurements that proved that the speed of light was 186 miles per second. You know, and I don't quite understand all the calculations and things that went into it.
Neither do I. But I know that, so oftentimes when there's an eclipse, before I would say the modern era, so the 19th century would be considered the modern era, but that's where they were beginning to figure that sort of stuff out. So when there was an eclipse or a Venus transit, the planet passing in front of the sun, scientists, different countries would send teams to opposite ends of the planet to observe and to measure the timing of that first contact and fourth contact was what they were looking for. And they needed to be able to say, okay, because they knew that the Earth was round, so there's going to be a delay for this side versus that side. And that's how they were able to start calculating those sort of things.
So it was a measurement of parallax.
It was a measurement of parallax. And now understanding that also then helped them figure out the scale of the solar system. Well, we knew what the scale was. We knew that if the Earth is 1 unit, Mars is about 2. And then, but they didn't know what that distance was. And so getting the measurement for when Venus passed in front of the sun, or when the sun, moon passed in front of the sun, help them fine tune and get a better idea of what the actual size of the solar system was. Ratios were there, but they didn't know, is it a mile, is it 100 miles, is it 1,000 miles? They didn't know exactly what that was. So every one of those moments helped them fine tune and get better and better measurements. Yes?
I think that the secret of measuring the speed of light across the solar system depended on accurate clocks. And so that's why you don't have these kind of measurements taking place in the 19th and 18th century.
Yeah, the clocks weren't as good as they are now. They had the clocks constantly had to be readjusted.
Yes.
Talk about the speed of light. I recently saw a video today, actually, on one of the ways that you yourself can measure the speed of light by taking a microwave oven, and you got to take the rotating plate out of it, and you can put several slices of like Kraft cheese in it. And because, the reason why it rotates in the microwave is because you'll notice sometimes it heats unevenly. And so you can measure melted part of the cheese, unmelted part of the cheese, melted part, unmelted, and start coming up with a scale, and that corresponds to the speed of light. Is based off, you get a look and see what the gigahertz is. There's a sticker somewhere on the back of the microwave that tells you that number, and then you can calculate backwards to get to the speed of light within a margin of error. So the funnest way I saw was that there's one. It's basically the same thing. Measuring it, it's called measuring the speed of light with peeps. the little Easter candy. And you do basically, it's the same thing. You measure where it's melted, where it's not melted, but you're doing it with peeps, and it just sounds funny. Yeah, that's pretty neat stuff. Let me see if I can properly throw up. So we're building a new observatory, if you haven't heard. And it is my phone and my brain. Sometimes I don't multitask. I can talk or I can. Yes, what's up? Yeah. Can you use regular sunglasses to look at the? No. You have to have specifically eclipse glasses.
I still pictures.
Okay, so that sun, that sun, and actually those some of the pictures that I was gonna play. So we are in the process. The building is from the outside. It's basically finished. It is done. The telescopes are here. They're sitting in crates. They came like Thursday. They were big giant shipping crates, just like in the cartoons. Big giant. I've never seen big wooden shipping crates before. With little labels and stuff burned into the side of it, like Indiana Jones style. And so they're sitting there in the building. But that really is that's the dome. That's what that was installed. So I took those pictures on Tuesday and Thursday. The dome was in place. They had the crane come out and lower it on. And they have also since used it a little bit. They've connected some of the electrical wiring to power it up and rotate it to make sure that they got it on correctly. But that's not the same position. The dome is in. This is something we have been trying to do together for, I would say, officially 3 years, but it's really been like in the back of people's minds even longer, this person in particular, longer than that. So, the telescope will go in that spot. So to see this weird thing here, that is the concrete, that's the pier. The telescope will sit on top of that. To give you an idea as how high that is, me standing here, it's up to here. That is the top of that, and the telescope will sit there. It's this high. So you would think, okay, I'm never going to get to look through that because I would have to use a step ladder if it were up that high. But that's not what we're doing. The interior of the building has yet to be done. We can't put the telescope in. You don't want dust getting all over your brand new $200,000 mirror. So that's how much the telescope costs. That telescope is going to be wheelchair accessible. So we're going to be building a platform, dual staircase, one coming up, another one to come down, and there will be a wheelchair lift in addition to that, bring you up to the observing platform. And then once you're there, the eyepiece, there's a periscope system. The telescopes themselves, the plane, what we're getting is what's called a PlaneWave CDK 700. PlaneWave is the brand. That's the brand of telescope. And I have another picture, one with the stamp on it that says CDK 700, number 76. So this is the 76th one of these instruments that they've installed. Most places are only doing research with it. So not even looking through the eyepiece, it's just attached to the camera. Most astronomers don't look through telescopes that much anymore. Anyway, so there's kind of, but some people still like to look. And so they added a unique feature. I know of one that's done it so far that brings the eyepiece down to a fixed height at about 38, 40 inches or so off from it, right about here. And so no matter where the telescope is pointed in the sky, most of the time, if you didn't want to look through a telescope, you're going to need a step ladder, there's going to be a staircase or something, and it's in the dark, and it's a rickety thing, hold that ladder for me while I'm climbing all the way up here. And imagine if you've got small children, your kid wants to see Jupiter. Well, and by the way, we're 30 feet off the ground. Not exactly a safe thing to do. So this keeps the eyepiece at a comfortable level where you can sit in a chair very much like the ones that you have here and observe comfortably as long as you want. When you're observing the telescope, that's oftentimes what makes it hard to see is you're leaning over and you're concentrating on balance. You're concentrating on holding on to something so that you don't fall over. And that takes away oxygen from your brain going to other places. And your eyes are very oxygen dependent. They need a lot of that. And so the more stressed you are, the more your vision gets blurrier. You know that when you get tired, some of the times what you do is you do this with your eyes. That's basically your eyes are like saying, hey, you need to breathe. And you take a deep breath and that little tingling sensation, that's your brain sending out like, that felt good, I needed more air. And so the less you have to do that, the longer you can observe it, the more you're going to be able to see. A lot of times people come up to observe, they go, okay, I'm done. Now, you can observe for a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, take longer at the eyepiece and, be comfortable while you're doing it. And that's the short, maybe not the short version, I'm kind of rambling a bit. Yes.
How big is your lens? How big is your mirror? And will it have, there's a device that takes and digitizes the image so that it can be broadcast? Will you have that as well?
So the size of the mirror is a 27-inch mirror.
And focal length?
It's big. The focal length is 4,650 millimeters, but I don't know. So that means basically it's 4 meters. So the light has to travel my height out about 2 meters. So basically double me plus a little bit more, and that's how far the light is traveling inside of that tube. But I don't know how that's going to apply with the periscope on the side. Oftentimes you got to include the entire light path. So I'm trying to get that hashed out, because then if the light's traveling through the telescope and then it goes through that tube, that makes the focal length effectively a lot longer. So as far as digitizing the image, so one of the things about this, a mirror that large, you want to be able to take pictures and do research with it. So there is a flip mirror system within the focuser, and you flip it one way and the light comes out where the eyepiece is where you want it to go. Or you can flip the mirror the other way, on the other side there's a camera. And it goes there, and you can just go back and forth at will and not have to change the focus. That was always a frustrating thing when you're using a telescope and you want to take pictures and view, pull the eyepiece out, put the camera on. Now I have to readjust the focus because it's like, it's a different lens. So it's not going to be the same for each instrument. And then, I want to look again. Take the camera out, 20 minutes later, put the eyepiece in, get it back in focus. This is going to be a matter of seconds, back and forth. And then the camera, yes, the intent is to put it like on a TV screen or something, so people down at the ground level can say, oh wow, they're looking at the Orion Nebula, they're looking at the Andromeda Galaxy, and try to do as close to real time as that camera can do. And the camera that we have is a big chip, but it's also for cameras on the old side, 12, 15 years old. It's not for a digital camera. That's for what's coming out now is kind of ancient. Because we have to start finding adapters to connect stuff. Like my laptop and today, that's an HDMI, and no, I don't have that option. I've got this other
Display port.
yeah. And so
We will have that adapter in a week. I ordered it right after you
Okay. I've got one at home. It seems like I spend half my time looking for adapters for. We had to get a whole new set of stuff because the laptops that the university finally gave us to replace what we needed out there is USB-C ports on it. And all of our cameras and our other stuff uses USB. And so you have to have an adapter to connect all of that stuff together. And so, yeah, it's interesting. I constantly thought I had all of them, and no, apparently I did not.
That's gonna be a big telescope.
It is. So the nice thing, 27-inch telescope, we have mediocre skies. So the upside is that is sensitive enough where with our seeing conditions, we'll never maximize that telescope's potential. Because of the light pollution that we have and proximity to the Gulf and fires and things like that, there are always going to be a day, unless now we put that out in terlingual like we were talking earlier, we'll hit the peak visibility like the first night, within the first week. We will maximize that telescope's potential. Here, no, because we have much worse skies. So in a way, it's kind of neat that, wait, today might be a little bit better than it was like 2 years ago. And so I could always be like, okay, the power's out in Riverside and Huntsville. How can I connect the power telescope up and take images while I have no electricity? Because those seriously, those are going to be things we're going to be looking for. Maybe we can find like a backup generator or something like that. And say, hey, I need you guys to cut off the power here for about 2 hours. Come on, help me out. So that is on the way, and we hope to maybe open by the end of September. I mean, a lot sooner than we originally, things are moving pleasantly well. Although I go look inside the building, I'm like, I got a lot of work to do in here. But okay, I'm not in charge of that. Just come back a little bit later. Oh, maybe the sheetrock will be up this week. Yes?
Your telescope, $200,000, your dome, all the equipment, building, everything else, you're, what, $2 million project?
Not quite that high. The dome, the dome was the original, that's what started. What we have out there is the original dome that sat on top of Farrington. And if you remember back in the 60s and 70s, the big white dome, that's still out there. And you can tell the steel door, that's like 1965, the horrible screeching metallic sound. I'm gonna miss that door. But that dome, basically, it's not functional anymore. I can't open it. I'm getting older, so moving it, pushing it, and helping the motor out manually, okay, now I can't do that like I used to, and then eventually once the cable and stuff broke, so we need to replace this. And it's rusting away in real time. I mean, if you walk in, you end up Bearcat orange just by touching the inside of the wall. And so that dome broke, and that's what instigated the whole upgrades stuff in the first place. So we secured what they call heat funding. I forget it was 110,000, might have been 78, but then they had to throw in a little extra to replace the dome. But then through conversations, we ended up having maybe it would be better, and we had a wonderful donor, Miss Barbara Domini. We were talking with her, invited her out. We share a property line with the country campus and their ranch. And I've been trying for years to get her to come out to the Star Party. And I know it's convenient, sometimes traveling. Also, there's always something that wasn't quite all lining up correctly. And she came out the day I had the business department out to discuss what are we going to do with the observatory. This was during COVID's peak. So COVID, in a way, I know we don't like it, kind of helped a little bit because it kind of put the brakes on some things and like, oh, hey, while you guys are waiting around for something to do, I have some ideas. And so she came out, brought cupcakes. It was awesome. And she was only going to spend like 20, 30 minutes. She's ready to go. And I was like, wait. Let me explain why we're here. And I told her why we were there. We're looking at, maybe doing some upgrades to the observatory. And she was just fantastic. She says, well, let me know how much you guys need. What? And then she turned around and she's like, well, honest, it's not $1 million. Okay, my frame of reference for expensive is like $100. I'm like, I feel bad asking, I need to replace this eyepiece, it's like $80. Do we have anything in there to do that? And she's just like, threw that number out there, like, whoa. So ultimately, most of the building was paid for by her generosity. And then the telescope, we weren't going to go with the planeway. We have a telescope out there already. That's more than adequate. I mean, it meets our needs, got a nice mount, nothing wrong with this at all. But it's still step ladder to get to it and stuff. So we were thinking, okay, later on we'll add the accessibility side to it. And another conversation was had with, and they told me, this is what our ultimate plan is, and she's like, how much is a telescope? And so we were able to skip that phase and get this one immediately rather than 2 to 3 years from now. And now you kind of know most of the story. All right, Nelson, I'm sorry.
Yeah, 2 questions. Number one, do you have an eyepiece collection?
Yeah, so that's one thing. We have some, but again, I just told you $100 for me is expensive. Really high quality eyepieces that really need to go in that may run $700 or $800 a piece. We have one that's very, very old that might work. We've got a couple. I have one I think will work okay, but I've been waiting for a chance to talk with people at Planlight and say, hey, what kind of stuff do you normally use in this? Because what I've seen in videos of people using those, there's this brand called Ethos eyepieces that are $700-800 a piece. And the difference is with people with eyeglasses, being able to see and, getting up close to the eyepiece is important. And so having those high quality lenses with what's called eye relief is going to be critical. So I won't really know until it gets here, until I have time to place the Jesus eye on. But we have some, but what we have right now, I wouldn't even dream of putting some of those little bitty things in that photo stream. What's your other question?
There's a picture up there on the far right.
Yeah.
What is going through your mind?
Well, so a number of things. First of all, taking a selfie while pointing around like this is hard. I was like, how do they do that? People are They use selfie sticks and stuff. I figured, people my arm would be long enough. I mean, look at me. You figured, but it was so. That was a very. I feel when I say I'm going to do something, then I really am going to do it. But so sometimes if I might do weird, like, hey, can we do this? I'm like, because I don't think it's a guarantee. I kind of hesitate a little bit. I've been talking about this for years and telling so how, no, we're going to get a new observatory. Yeah. No, it's really going to, and so when the groundbreaking and blueprint started coming up, and even then it's like, okay, maybe they dug around in the dirt a little bit, but you could have done that with your shovel. And so seeing that piece right there was what started here. I'm not making this stuff up. Look, it's real. I'm touching it. I'll never touch the outside again. It's gonna be like 30 feet in there. So I'm like putting my handprints all over on the outside. And I hope it didn't break anything. Because you see how high it's about as high as the ceiling, honestly. Where the tip part, the top part of the dome.
You look like a kid with a Christmas, a wonderful Christmas present. Santa Claus is just giving you.
Absolutely, and I'm very bad about Christmas presents. I have a knack for guessing what is in the box. Like my wife said, you can't rattle it. They're like, who gave this to me? Okay, hold on. There's socks in here. How did you know there were socks in there? I didn't put a brick in it so it would rattle. I just know it's socks. So with those crates that are inside the building, I walk in and I'm like, okay, most of the telescope is in here, but this large thing, that's the mirror. I even shook and rattled those, and I'm like, that weighs about 250. Yeah, that's the mirror. Okay. And this has got, I don't know what's in this. Must be like a smaller optic system. And I mean, it is all. I mean, it's not cardboard. It's just like wooden, heavy crate. And I'm like, I've already poked at it, and so yeah, I'm just beyond excited. This is a dream come true. I kind of laughed when we were initially talking about it that night in 2020, telling the department chair what we were thinking about doing. So this is just phase 1, by the way. Phase 2 and phase 3 are, those are probably years further down the road. But I told them, so, you realize, so you're building my retirement. When I retire as a school teacher, by the time I get to that point, all this stuff will be done. And you're just going to hand me the keys. Because most people, when they retire, a lot of times they might go buy that one car they have their eyes set on, and they buy a sports car, or they'll buy a boat, or they'll go get an RV and go camping and stuff like that, or they'll do that one thing that's been on their wish list and they just didn't have time for. And you're just going to here are the keys. I won't have to spend 1 red cent of mine. In fact, you're going to pay me to do it. It's even better. And who knows, maybe sooner than later I'll get to actually as my full-time job. We're trying to find funding in different ways to do this, because as it is right now, I'm a special ed teacher. This is my side hustle. And so I'm always finding, when summertime comes along, I got to play catch up. What's the astronomy world been doing? Okay, here, I got 2.5 months, go. And then I've got to slow down a little bit. And so school started last week. School started last week. Yes?
The Pritchett telescope, is it still in good condition? Has it been cared for?
So when you say the Pritchett telescope, you're talking about the old 1884 Clark refractor.
Okay.
I don't know. Okay, so I want to make the distinction there. That's the second time, but it wasn't until the past couple of months that I ever heard of it referred to as the Pritchett telescope.
I know what kind of.
I talked with her. We had a conversation and stuff about that. So that telescope is here. It's actually, it used to live in the planetarium. Bit of a story about that was it was going to be stored away and was taken out to the St. Houston Memorial Museum. They've had it in their storage for a while. Well, when I heard that it was going to be placed in there, I looked at my friend and I'm like, okay, it's been here. We need to go take it outside and use it. So we drug it outside that night and looked at Saturn and took pictures with our little iPhones at the time. This was like 10 years ago, just so that we could say we actually looked through that telescope. Should it ever get displayed in the museum? And so it's been there for the past 8 or 9 years or so. And the plan is once all this is finished, that it will be moved out there at the very least, they could see this instrument. The 1884 Clark refractor was purchased by the university in 1884. So the university was only 5 years old at the time. And it's probably the first purchase there's a research paper, a graduate thesis that talks a little bit about it. And it was the equivalent of an entire year's salary from one of the professors at the time. It was a big investment. And most observatories in that era, if you bought, the reason why you would buy a Clark refractor is American-made, handmade, probably the best telescope maker in the U.S. at the time. But if you were a university and you bought one of those, and it's a little 3-inch refractor. But if you bought one, you probably had a building already set up to put it in. You had your own dome, you had your own mechanism and stuff. And so mounting it was, you took care of that. But St. Houston didn't have, they were really early on, so there wasn't a place to store it. So that meant they also bought the tripod and all the other stuff that comes with it. And there is there's a book about antique telescopes that Derek Birdsall, I think that's his name. Their group, they found that book and showed that it is listed in there. I believe it is the only complete set of the 12. So there were 12, I think 12 of those telescopes made of that size and design. But I think that's the only one that they then also bought the tripod and the little brass bars and stuff to focus it and everything, because everybody else had their own equipment to put it on, and we needed something to support it. So
It's a German mount.
kind of.
It's all right.
No, let me look. I have pictures of it. That's what I was going to put up there. Yes, but it's rough. It's not. It is not easy. You ever seen the little telescopes they sell at Christmas time? By the way, don't buy those. Those are hobby killers. But it works about as well as that, except it's a little bit larger and a little bit more robust. But steering it it's challenging. It's not. You kind of almost need a team of people to. Here we go. I have. Where I put it under construction. I thought I did. Yeah. I know that. Let's see here. 'Cause I had stuff made it. There you go. So there's your Clark refractor.
The studies in 1884 would have made that a freaking instrument.
Yes. There's the Clark refractor that was on display at the groundbreaking ceremony. When you say the Pritchett telescope, this is probably what you're talking about.
It's in the museum now, or it's in your?
It is in storage.
It's in store.
It is in storage. They brought it out for the groundbreaking to show, because Sam, Miss Conley's husband,
Yeah.
was helpful a number of times in saving it. It was going to be put in salvage. We were going to get rid of it. And he was like, no, we can't do that. This has got to stay here. So he was very instrumental in keeping it, restoring it at the time. This was in the 1950s, I think. Okay, so here is like the eyepiece. So on the back end of it, it's inscription. You can see the year. It tells you that it was made in Cambridge, Massachusetts, where their production facility was at. And these things got engraved on the inside. So, I mean, those telescopes, their specialty was looking at planets. Those long refractors, that's what they excel at, is because of that long focal length, there tends to be flaws in the optics, like chromatic aberration, so things have like funky colors. Oh, that's the one, yeah.
Couldn't it be housed out of the observatory and the auxiliary viewing, you know, like the Fort Davis, you know, they have star parties, they have the big telescope, but they have little telescopes.
We have smaller telescopes we will be doing with that. I seriously doubt we're gonna let people touch this stuff. It's just, I mean, we'll have it on display, but actually maybe once in a while under an extremely close supervision. I mean, we did it because I was afraid I would never get to touch it again. So like, we're gonna take it outside now. But it might be. We have smaller telescopes. We have some bigger than that. That's part of our phase 2 and phase 3 plan. They're the crates. Yeah, show you pictures of wooden boxes. Those are the ones I rattled. All right. The diagram. I don't have that easily available. I don't know about that. I didn't put that in that folder. I have pictures, but it's not in that folder, so I don't know if I have them.
Is the new observatory going to be christened the Dominic Observatory, Prokosh Observatory, Dominic with the Prokosh telescope maybe?
Dominic Observatory. It's actually there in process within the state legislature. There's some paperwork that needs to be filed, but basically, it will be renamed the either observatory or astronomy park. Because we want to have some other, and that really is, check it out, but that really what it looks like. That really is what I was kind of floored when they put the walls up on the building. I'm like, oh my gosh, that really is, that's not just a cartoon. I had a little bit of criticism with the department chair when the first picture that he had, the person who was standing out front had a little bit more beer gut with a cardigan sweater, and I was like, that is not me. You fix that. That is not me. So that one's a little bit better. I was like, no, I don't look like that. You fix that. Now, anything else is okay. But yeah, I was a little bit excited that it really does look like that. And these things, the towers, the 1, 2, 3, 4, those are, they're going to be light posts outside with red lights on them. So that there is and we'll need to be able to switch them off from time to time. But that way, people who are walking around, they can see where the sidewalk and stuff is, and you don't end up, in the trees or whatever. Right.
Thank you. Yeah. I have 20 questions for you, but I won't keep you.
Too much. Other questions? Typically, I'll tell people at the observatory. Look, I will talk about this as long as you let me. So if you need to go home, just go home. You won't hurt my feelings at all.
I do have a couple of questions.
Oh, that's fine. Yes, any questions?
Well, I'll wait until quick.
Gwen can ask me her question anytime. She's my sister-in-law. She's gonna close out the service. Oh, okay, she's gotta do that. All right. So she's asking a question. We
is number 163 in Greenville for the Earth Forever Time.
Let's sing it all, it's really good.
There's 4 verses evidently. Indeed, we are all one planet. We are a mere speck in the universe. Each of us is our speck. Each of us are our own atoms. But we all come from star stuff. And I'd also like to close with a small grace in honor of Hawaii. Aloha to God above. Aloha, a word that means I love you, welcome, and goodbye. Mahalo, too, means I thank you. And mahalo, aloha to God. We are all family. Thank you so much, Michael.
And before everybody leaves, if you could help me and Gwen out and help us stack the chairs against the walls, we need to have a room clear for the garage sale, and that'll save my back a little bit.
here. Not as good as in New Mexico. New Mexico, it's going to be almost, I would describe it as annoying right. The next girl has where amateur astronomers believe that the means to do so have built entire subdivisions of houses with different places in the backyard. And, you know, all of our real basic lights, no. Different lights off, red lights outside only, behind the grass. There are several private subdivisions, how I know we all have observatories in yes, they're all exactly association specifically. See that? Yeah. This was from,
The recipe for this correction.
so I took basically, I went to Orlando this summer to check out their site. That's where I'm from. Shall we say, so, yeah, I'm just saying, a little bit say my audience, go to our churches, maybe your place, and we'll be there.
Michael, we met.
Yes, yes. Library, yeah, if you want, so time here, so now, time of year is hard, like, what time of year? So like right now, if you were to go outside, see that. So the easiest, like right now, all the way through, I like to go on the block.